What if you could get a peek behind the curtain? See the actual blueprint Google uses to rank local businesses? Well, in early 2024, that's exactly what happened. Thanks to a massive accidental leak of thousands of internal documents, we got that chance. So today, we're going to crack this thing wide open and see what this unprecedented look inside Google's brain really means for your local business.
And look, this is not just hype. SEO expert Shaun Anderson, a guy who's been doing this for 25 years, he called it a moment of stark clarity. And why is that? Because for the first time, we are moving past guesswork and speculation. This is a direct look at the data, the actual attributes Google itself is collecting.
So at the very heart of this whole leak is a data model called LocalWWWInfo. Now, the easiest way to think about this is like it's Google's master file on your business. It's the critical link, the thing that connects your website URL to your actual physical real-world storefront. And trust me, understanding this one file is the key to unlocking everything else we're going to talk about.
So how in the world did this even happen? Well, back in March of 2024, someone accidentally published a ton of internal API documentation to a public GitHub repository. It actually sat there for a couple of months before the SEO community found it in May. By then, of course, the cat was way out of the bag, and now we get to decode all the secrets.
All right, so what's the first big secret? Well, it completely flips the script on how we think about one of the most fundamental concepts in local SEO: name, address, and phone number, or NAP. For years, we've all been told that perfect consistency is everything. But this leak, it reveals a system that is way, way more sophisticated than that.
So yeah, the old belief was simple, right? Your name, address, and phone had to be perfectly identical, character for character, everywhere online. But the leaked reality? It's that Google is running something way more complex called entity resolution.
And what that means is, Google's system isn't really designed to punish you for having state in one place and street in another. Nope. Instead, it's acting more like a detective. It's collecting all these different variations and clues to solve the puzzle of who your business really is, to find that one single true identity. So how does it collect all these clues? Well, it uses an attribute that the documents call a Raptor item. Just think of it like this. Every single time your NAP information shows up on Yelp, or a local Chamber of Commerce site, or some random blog, that's a Raptor item. It's a single footprint that Google logs and adds to its big case file on your business.
It all comes together in this really neat three-step process. First, Google collects all of those Raptor item footprints from all over the web. Then it groups them together using a cluster attribute. And this is the cool part, even if some of the info conflicts. And finally, it resolves all of that messy, real-world data to figure out the single most probable identity for your business, creating one high-confidence profile.
Okay, if that whole entity resolution thing was a big reveal, what we're about to talk about next is, well, it's an earthquake. This leak proves, without a doubt, that Google isn't just looking at your online presence. It is actively trying to score how prominent you are in the physical world. But I mean, stop and think about that for a second. How can a search engine, right? A bunch of code and servers, how can it possibly know how popular your coffee shop or your law firm actually is in the real world with real people?
The answer is a numerical score they call brick-and-mortar-strength. And honestly, this is a massive discovery. Google isn't just asking, does this business exist? It's asking, how strong is this business in the real world? And it is literally assigning your business a grade.
So what powers this score? Well, it's a mix of things you might expect. An active Google business profile, the number and speed of your reviews, user photos, that all plays a part. But the real game changer, the most powerful signal, is almost certainly aggregated location data, real-world foot traffic, and how long people actually stay at your business. It's wild. Google can literally measure your offline popularity. But it's not just about your business all by itself. The leak also shows us that Google is analyzing the context of your surroundings, both your physical neighborhood and your digital one, to truly understand who you are and how relevant you are.
A great example of this is a concept called geotopicality. Google's smart enough to know that certain areas, certain districts, are thematically linked to specific things. For instance, it knows that Savile Row in London is all about bespoke tailoring. It knows a theater district is about live entertainment. So if your business happens to be located in one of these zones, you can actually inherit some of that topical authority just by being there.
Now, switching over to your digital context, There's another attribute called site siblings. Don't let the name fool you. It's pretty simple. It's just a count of how many different websites or subdomains Google has confidently identified as all belonging to your one brand.
So for example, you might see a site siblings value of 4. Okay, what does that actually mean?
It just means that Google has connected your brand to 4 separate web properties. You know, that could be your main.com site, maybe a .co.uk version for the UK, your corporate blog, and maybe a careers portal. A higher number here is basically a signal to Google that you're a bigger, more established brand with a pretty significant digital footprint.
Okay, we have looked under the hood, we've seen the signals, we've seen the attributes. Now for the most important part. What in the world do you do with all this information? Let's bring it all together and build a brand new playbook for local success.
This new playbook really breaks down into 4 key areas. First up, you've got to solidify your foundational identity. That means making your NAP data super easy for Google to resolve. Second, you have to actively build your real-world prominence to pump up that brick-and-mortar strength score. Third is understanding your scale and type. And finally, you've got to strengthen your contextual relevance, both online and offline.
So where should you start? What's the biggest bang for your buck? Well, this gives us a really clear, prioritized action plan. The 2 highest impact things you can do are 1, standardize your name, address, and phone number everywhere to help Google build a strong, confident entity cluster. And 2, actively, consistently ask for customer reviews to directly influence that brick-and-mortar strength score. Seriously, those 2 things alone target the most powerful signals that were revealed in this entire leak.
At the end of the day, what this leak really signals is the end of an era. It's not just about tweaking keywords anymore. Like the analysis says, future success is going to be determined by who can build the most authentic, the most authoritative, and the most verifiable business entity in the real world, and then prove that it exists online.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about for your own business. Is your current online strategy focused on just building a website? Or is it focused on that much bigger and now much more important goal of building a real-world entity that Google can actually find, verify, and ultimately trust?